Hey y'all, for anyone just tuning in, I'm Matt, and today we're going to be talking more about improv and how it pertains to D&D. So, well, to start things off, as always, if anyone has any questions or anything, feel free to shout them out, and I will get to them as quickly as I can. But for now, we're going to get started with, I guess I should probably post this so that live now, talking about improv and D&D. Okay, cool. So, here we go. We're going to use my faithful tool, the Google Sheet. So, here we go. Oh man. Yeah, lately there have been quite a few streams. It's been pretty busy. And so what I would like to talk about today is specifically the ability to limiting yourself so that you'll have more freedom as far as improvising is concerned. One of the, I guess, biggest and best tools I have whenever I play, whether it's an NPC as a DM or when I'm playing a character in a game, or even if it's in an improv show, say it's a game of bad advice, one of my strongest tools is simply to pull in my character so I'm less, so I have less to consider. It's like the more you narrow things down, the easier it can get. And so now I'm going to, there we go, classic, connected to my faithful sheets. So, limiting yourself can be freeing. So, fundamentally, this feels like a contradiction, right? And in a way it is, but if you're in a capacity where you have to be able to perform, having too much information equals overload. And that's why I advocate so much list building, because list building allows you to, I should title this too. But list building allows you to focus on the relevant information. Because if I asked you to come up with something, if that was the question, like let's say it's just some random message where you just get a message saying, hey, tell me something. When that's the case, you have basically everything you ever know at your disposal. And when that happens, you don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. And oftentimes, when you're in a game, let's say you're in a TTRPG, we are at the very least able to narrow it down from the start from the system we choose. Narrowing down the system we choose, the character we choose, and from there it's like we have our class, we have our abilities, we have features, and all of those things allow us to more easily decide what are we going to do in this situation. Now, as far as the character role-playing part, the improv parts of being able to react in the moment, well, we are going to be using, well, let's start it off from the top of like, if, let's say, you started a game and you're trying to figure out what your character's deal is. Let's say you've already got your class, your abilities, your features, all that squared away, but you want to be able to make a distinct personality at the drop of a hat without making it without making it one-dimensional in a way. And I'd say like even one-dimensional isn't terrible, because at the very least that's what we can start with, right? So here we go. We can start one-dimensional and then use that to broaden. The main thing is that as a starting point, I don't want you to judge. Judgment-free zone. Because oftentimes if our standard is too high as we get started, then that can make it difficult. It can make it difficult for any ideas to get through. So, first things first, let's say I just jumped into a game. Drop of a hat, short notice, they just gave me the sheet with the stats, abilities. I haven't figured anything out yet. And I'm given a situation. Let's say it's a tavern. And my character has been placed at the bar. And now the bartender, bar in game. And the bartender asks, what'll you have? Now, whatever you decide in this moment, we're gonna hold on to that. We're not gonna, I'd say in this case, don't worry about do-overs. Don't worry about, is this good enough? I want you to, oh, whoa, Joe, it's good to see you too. How are you doing? Right now, we're just talking about using limits to construct a character from scratch and then allowing yourself to broaden as you go, as opposed to having all the options in the world and trying to decide from everything. Choosing from just a little bit and then building can make it a lot easier. But right now, the hypothetical is we're in the game and the bartender asks you, what'll you have? So in this case, I'm just gonna make a decision here of like, okay, my character, the way he'll respond is a drink. Now, here, I've limited myself a little bit here in that I haven't decided on what kind of drink or anything like that. I just know that I want a drink, but we can consider what this means for my character. If I'm just saying a drink, I haven't expanded enough to show like tone or anything. So there are a couple paths that come to my mind immediately. My character could be the very sarcastic type, where when he says a drink, of course, he's at a bar. He's waiting on the bartender. I mean, there are some other situations where he might go up to the bar, but in this case, just saying a drink, we can narrow down a little bit, and it could be just kind of a, you know, the smartass type of character. Or maybe maybe your character is having a rough day. Another reason why you might just say a drink, maybe your character has been through it. And if you've been through it, that's tough. That's hard. And maybe your character has dealt with so much in the moment that they just want to drink the emotions away. In which case, we have more things to consider here of what happened. Why is he here? So, because I've already started branching off, I'm going to go with this path of character here to drink away problems. In which case, he just says a drink. Bartender has their reaction. Maybe they think that this character is trying to be a smartass, trying to be sarcastic, in which case the reaction to a drink could just be, hey, don't waste my time, buddy. Order or get out. Because I could easily see there being a fair number of people who might show up and sarcastically say that, or like assume that it's a good joke, and the bartender could take this. It could be like late in the shift, and the bartender has had enough, and is like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this right now. Don't waste my time. Order or get out. At which point the character, since this character's been through it and he's dealing with stuff, he still wants a drink. I mean, there is a chance that he would just be like, forget it, and leave. But I want to, at the very least, be able to explore this a little bit. Because if every time he gets rejected in a scene, he leaves, then every moment is going to be very shallow, because not everyone is going to be as willing to stay and probe and be receptive to this person. So at this point, it might just be a pull back, and he might say, sorry, it's not been a good day. So, we've established quite a few details here now. We've established that this character is here to drink away his problems. He goes here, but he doesn't go here often. Otherwise, the bartender's reaction would be different. He's been through it. We can consider what's happened. It's to the point where the drink is his objective. Now, at this point, since we've established these elements, we can consider, okay, character that drinks away problems frequently, infrequently. I mean, this is basically a flip of a coin here, where we can consider, hey, if this character is going to do this often, then why does this bartender know them? Are they out of town? I'm gonna go with the frequently here, because I feel like infrequently, it's nice. I just mental coin flip, to be honest. But let's say they do it frequently, in which case we can ask the question, why doesn't bartender know him? And from there, maybe he's not very social, maybe he's out of town, maybe he goes to a new bar every time. We can use any of these. I'm gonna go with this one because I feel like it might stretch me a little bit more. Why would he go to a new bar every time? Maybe he makes a fool of himself every time. Maybe he feels like a fool for whatever happened and doesn't want to be recognized. And oh shoot, sorry, I just realized that that can't be seen on the page. I'm gonna pull that down. And doesn't want to be recognized. Oh, great. Just got home from work, enjoying the video so far. Well, awesome. I'm so glad to hear it, Joe. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. This is my forte. Like, because of the nature of improv, I mean, I haven't been able to really do it like on stage in a while, so D&D has been just a godsend. But I mean, I am frequently called upon to just go into a scene and be someone else. And it's like, you have to be able to go through and immediately become someone who most likely should be funny or should support funny. And so it's like, you just gotta flesh it out from the beginning. But I'm glad you're enjoying it. Thank you so much. You're amazing, Joe. Sorry, this is also a bit later than I normally stream, but I'm glad that everything coincided so that you could tune in, Joe. All right. So, for this, maybe he feels like a fool for whatever happened and he doesn't want to be recognized. If that's the case, this is more internal because it's not like, I mean, based on the bartender's reaction and the fact that this guy is staying here to drink, most likely the bartender would have no idea what happened. And I mean, there's a part of me that's kind of drawing on a little bit of personal experience here, so I'm going straight for this one. Feels like a fool for whatever happened and doesn't want to be recognized. First thing I could think of, stood up. That's happened to me before, quite a few times, where, like, for example, there was one time where I had scheduled a lunch with a date, quote unquote. I mean, ambiguous, right? But scheduled a lunch and I arrived just a couple minutes early. There was no one else in there. No one else in the no one else in the restaurant. And I mean, it sucks. Oh, you've dropped into some convention games where you had to do a character, but luckily there was a pre-gen character sheet. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh man, I can't imagine going in and like having to figure out all the features and everything right off the bat. That'd be wild. But I'm gonna switch songs real quick because I don't want to compete with lyrics. But yeah, like, I mean, when it comes to the actual game itself, I mean, that seems very daunting to have to go in, learn a new sheet, and also like learn how to play with these people and the DM, and also do the role-playing part. So, man, that's brave of you. I dig that. But this, I mean, in this case, this could help the next time you go and do a con game. So hopefully, this will provide a helping hand. But in that moment, date scheduled, arrived a couple minutes early, no one else in the restaurant. I mean, there was the server slash cashier, and I imagine a cook that I never saw because they were in the back, but sat there happy, and excited. 10 minutes goes by, and I'm like, all right. And the servers come by a couple times, and I've already been like, oh no, I'm waiting for somebody. Like a fool. But I had a water, which was nice. Waited, 30 minutes goes by, just sitting there. And then I'm like, all right, let's shoot a message and say, hey, everything okay? Nothing. Server comes by again and asks, and at this point, I mean, a little bit of embarrassment is setting in, because, I mean, very rarely has there been a time where someone is actually like 30 or 40 minutes late, where it wasn't, like a standing up of some sort. So, and I'd say, like, from being the person experiencing it, you start to think like, oh, I hope the server isn't like feeling, I don't know, like I'm dumb, right? And I can imagine, like, working at a restaurant long enough, you'd probably see it all the time, but it's very much like an internal shame. But then after that, it's like, eventually I get the message and they're like, oh, sorry, I slept in. Can we reschedule? And then I'm like, oh, okay, sure. And I've waited there that long. I get some of the food there, and then I roll out. And then it's like that beating yourself up inside thing later. Beating yourself up. And so then I'm going to pull this. This is, I guess, like a combination of several different things that I've discussed before, where we have the idea of list building, of starting at a granular level and then building it up so that we have more to work with. And once we have the more to work with, we can use flash memory. And I use this flash memory to have that sense of embarrassment and shame. So then, maybe in this case, the character might not have met up with someone for lunch, might have just been stood up in that area. As this character, maybe this character shows up at the tavern at the start of this adventure after having gone to a place and getting rejected. And then they come in to this tavern, want to have a drink, and they feel like maybe it's a combination of factors where it's like, because of where they are, because of them getting rejected here, and the desire, there's location and motivation. Maybe this bar is nearby, and maybe the desire is to forget this emotion. And when you have both of those combining, maybe that's why they're always at a new bar. It's like you go to a place, get stood up, decide, I want to not feel this anymore. Go have a drink. All right. Now, since we are building a character on the fly, we have the distinct privilege to choose right now. We get to choose why this character has been rejected. Now, in this case, since we get to choose why this character has been rejected, it depends. It depends on what type of character you want to play. And by that, I mean, do you want a sympathetic character? Because in this case, if you want the sympathetic character, actually, look, I'll give you a list of possibilities here. Because with all of these possibilities, there's lots of different ways to play them, but knowing which one you want specifically will give you a better roadmap to go down that path. So do you want a sympathetic character, or do you want a character that people loathe, that people hate? Or do you want a comic relief? Because first impressions make a huge impact when you're playing a game, whether you're playing on stream or off. But if you're playing in a game and you need to establish these things very quickly, decide right then. And I would say, I mean, the earlier, usually people are taking their turns introducing their characters. Typically, I like to introduce mine a little bit later, just so I can balance things out. But here, frankly, I'm just going to roll a dice. 1, 2, sympathetic. 3, 4, loathe. 5, 6, comic relief. 6 it is. Comic relief. Great. I chose all of these specifically because they all have their own distinct and very, very minute differences. Okay, so if I want comic relief, I need to consider the other two things, right? Because sympathy, you get sympathy by being relatable and pitiable. Yes, hail the dice gods indeed. Okay, so here we've got relatable. Sorry, I'm just making sure that everything is framed properly. Sympathetic, relatable, pitiable. If you want to be loathed, unrelatable. Oh my gosh, I forgot how to spell things all of a sudden. Or unpitiable. And comic relief is where I'd say maybe more so like, it's weird because it's unrelatable. Wait, in a way. Partially unrelatable. It depends. Or relatable. But unpitiable. And let me explain this, because the biggest difference between the sympathetic and the comic relief character is, oh yeah, absolutely. A good comic relief is really hard to pull off naturally. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. Oh man, yeah, if it feels forced, it definitely doesn't work. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like when it comes to any of the characters if they're at some sort of extreme. Like if you're being too funny at a serious table, then you've got a problem because it's clashing with the tone. But if you're too serious at a funny table, that's also a problem. Clashing with the tone. It's like there's a tightrope you walk when you're playing the character that stands out tonally. It's about being able to stand out tonally sometimes and not like fighting the current. It's sort of like being able to provide just a little bit whilst being able to operate in the prominent mood. So tightrope walk. Okay. So here is how I differentiate sympathetic and comic relief. A story, a moment, is easily either. It depends on delivery, namely how the person reacts. My classic example is this. Person slips on banana peel. When you hear that on its face, that's usually a comic moment, right? We usually think of like a clown or like some uptight businessman in a show that slips. And when that happens, we love it. It's funny. It's funny for the clown because, I mean, the way they play with it, it's a little bit more complex. But the same principles come up with the uptight businessman or with like anyone else that's higher status. High status getting dropped. So it's funny with the uptight businessman because typically what happens is we see scenes beforehand where this uptight businessman maybe shoves past the crowd, shoves past a pregnant lady, shoves past a little kid trying to get to their work on time, and they're like, yeah, I deserve this. And once we've done that, once we've established that, we have a person who we no longer pity. No longer pity. We might not relate to this person, but we don't pity them anymore. And so then when something bad happens to them, like slipping on a banana peel, and they fall, and let's say they fall in a puddle, dress shirt is ruined, then it's funny. As long as that's all we know, right? Because they got what they deserved in our view. Now, we can very easily turn this into a sad moment. And hello, it's so good to see you. Oh my gosh, y'all are all amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in. We were just talking about the difference, the very minute difference of comic relief, like something funny, or sympathy, something sad. So we just had a businessman shoving past a pregnant lady, shoving past a kid, trying to get to his business meeting, thinks he's entitled, falls in a puddle, dress shirt is ruined. And in that moment, that slip, that fall is funny. But we turn it sad by making this businessman pitiable. What I picture here if any of y'all have seen Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, it's the one where it has like the weird spelling of happiness, Pursuit of Happiness. But for that character, most of that movie is very depressing. There's some moments of hope here and there to keep you going, but most of the movie is just bad news on bad news on bad news. Like, he's struggling to make ends meet. I believe his wife leaves him. I believe his kid, like, he's struggling because there's so much piled upon him, and he's just trying his best. So, since we pity Will Smith's character is pitiable, since we pity him, it makes it so that if we imagine that character in the same situation, shoving past people, and then falling into a puddle on the way to the work meeting, if you've seen the movie, most of the time the bad things happen as he's about to do something very important. Like as he's about to go to a job interview. And this all piles on to make it so that when we see this, we want him to win. And so the fact that he loses, it makes that sad. It makes it depressing. Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, I'll admit, I have a side tangent real quick. And this is just a related Will Smith movie. If y'all have seen 7 Pounds, also terrifyingly sad at the end. But, oh yeah, and it's very good. But when 7 Pounds, terrifyingly sad. I didn't know that. All I was thinking was, oh, it's a drama? I'm going to invite a first date to this movie. That'll be fantastic. We went, and everything was pretty chill. And then... yeah. We went to eat afterwards, and both of us were just like, oh man, I don't really have an appetite. But yeah, that happened. It was beautiful. It's like, and in this case, like, I find it funny. Like, I laugh at it now. But this is also like another aspect of it, right? Because if I tell you that story, and if it's not like, if it doesn't feel like I'm over it, then it's a sad one. If I'm like, I was really into her, and then we went to 7 Pounds, and then you know what happens, and I think about it every night. If that's the case, that's a sad story now. Oh no, Joe, you took a first date to the Titanic. Oh, I mean, not to the Titanic, but to Titanic. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Goodness. Yeah. It's tough. It's so tough. Because I feel like there's a balance, right? There are certain sad movies that you can go to on a date, and that it'll work sometimes. But then there's some where it's just like, neither person can recover from that and actually like focus on the interaction. Yeah, I'm so sorry, Joe. Goodness. Took a first date to The Departed. She slept through the shooting. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Holy crap. Yeah, see, look at this. And this is why, like, when I was talking about comedy, I put unrelatable with a question mark, because you have situations where even if the person can't relate, it can still be funny. But there's like an extra layer of funny when other people have been through it too. Like, I mean, y'all, with your stories, to taking, oh my gosh, it's brutal. But the fact that all of us share this makes your comic relief character in that moment, as long as their reaction is as though they've gotten past it, we can maintain the comedy here. One of your favorites was a date night from hell, and then sweet and sour chicken dinner. Oh man, date night from hell. You're gonna have to elaborate on that one. I'm excited. Sweet and sour chicken is good though. Delicious, delicious. I will say this. I am very sorry to disappoint you, Liam. I have not seen The Departed, so otherwise I would have been able to expound a little bit more on yours. Once we've made this distinction, since I set up this character who goes to a bar to drink rejected, and I'm deciding to play the character that's the comic relief, in which case, comic relief character rejected. I don't want this character to be pitiable. So maybe in this case, it's not a matter of them being rejected personally. Because if they're rejected personally, then it makes it so much harder for them to not be, well, actually, scratch that. Rejected personally, but doesn't take it right. Not right. Doesn't take it personally. So, here's my example. Let's say the character we've created is going to a drink in the bar because they were rejected, because there was some level of shame, but the shame isn't in themselves. It's in the fact that things didn't work out. And maybe from the other character's point of view, they were rejected on a personal level. Maybe it's because this character is too dense. Maybe this character is too conceited. Too optimistic. So, in this case, let's play with too optimistic. Okay, hang on. I want to keep taking to see the right, eyes closed, ears covered the whole time. Drove you home and laughed at you. Eventually she Oh, whoa! Well, that's awesome. Beautiful. Beautiful. From Hell was the Johnny Depp Jack the Ripper comic book movie. Oh, Jack the Ripper horror equals sweet and sour chicken looking like bloody organs. Oh my gosh. That's brutal. I'm sorry. Oh man, that's rough. That's rough. Goodness. That's also a movie I haven't seen. So when you said date night ... from hell, I thought you were saying like a date night from hell, not that it was a movie. So my bad. Oh man. Okay, so we've got this character, rejected, too optimistic, but they do feel bad. That's why they want to have the drink. Now, in this case, maybe the date gave an excuse, like a typical sort of excuse, right? Maybe it's like, what would be a typical excuse? Let's see. Hey, would one of y'all give me a very typical excuse? like, I say typical, but I mean like if someone's not into you and they give you an excuse, because I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use it for this very thing to build this character. So, if any of y'all can think of an excuse, please let me know. Grandmother died. Great, great. Cool, cool. So, for this character who's too optimistic, we want him to be comic relief, in which case he gets the drink. I mean, there may be a little bit of back and forth, but it's like, could I just have a scotch? And then he gets the drink, he like slams it, wants another one. And then the bartender, curious, I mean, it's like night and day as far as the initial reaction. And so then he's like, hey, so what's eating you? And then the guy says, oh man, you know, it feels like maybe love isn't right for me. It seems like every single time I think I found someone cool, someone in their family dies. And so, I don't know, maybe I'm just bad luck. Or maybe, you know what? I know what it is. Because she did seem pretty distraught when she saw me, so maybe it's because when she told her grandmother about me, her grandmother was so excited that her granddaughter finally found the love of her life, and the excitement caused a heart attack, and her last moments were smiling, knowing that her granddaughter had found love. Yeah, that's it. Oh snap! Okay. So here, hang on. I'm gonna branch off and use all of this, all of it. So, grandmother died. Optimism. Grandmother so excited that granddaughter, the date, found love of life. In which case, this character rationalizes it and is able to keep going, and potentially, I mean, I am putting this in like a D&D world, so it's not like phone calls or anything, but maybe he'll hope that he'll run into her again and apologize for bringing her grandmother so much joy. Just put a lasagna in the oven. Okay. I just put a lasagna in the oven. Great. So, too optimistic. When he leaves, she said, I just put a lasagna in the oven. And then he's like, oh, snap. Wow. In that case, maybe he would ask why. Why was that the case? And then there could be another excuse adding on to it. In which case it's like, I just put a lasagna in the oven. Why? I forgot. My family is coming over to visit. Sorry. And so now, after thinking about it, this character is so optimistic. It's like, oh, no worries. You guys have family time, and I will jet. And then bartender asks, and he's like, wow. You know, now that I think about it, if she scheduled a date with me on the same day that her family, the most important people in the world, are coming to visit her. I was so awesome that she forgot about plans with her family. Wow, I'm amazing. Forgot because amazing. And then we have this sort of delusion again, the power of optimism for this character. I'll be going out of town that day. Okay, great. So then in this case, it's more of a, like while you're talking with the person and trying to iron out plans, it's like, okay, optimism. Going out of town that day. Okay, so for this character, since he's so tirelessly optimistic, that the day that we were to be going out of town, great. Okay. Rationalizing it to the bartender. Well, it does seem like there are a lot of trips. There's so many trips planned. I mean, she planned a trip, and I know, I mean, a lot of times when people plan trips, it's to see people important. Maybe she's going to see her grandmother. Wait a second. What if she's going to tell her grandmother that she's found the love of her life, and that's me? So then the next time we might happen to run into each other in this town, then maybe she'll propose. See, this tireless optimism, this gives you the ability to play this character in such a way where you have a little bit of like that pity, but with the character's overall like cheerfulness, you're able to pull it away from being a depressing scene, because it could very easily be one where the character is just like, oh, they always make excuses, and then this character is down in the dumps. But with the character who's going too optimistic, then we've got a lot of fodder, something we can play with. And since we established this trait, then we can use this in everything. I mean, you guys have really... Oh, so we're eating at your place? Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. Smooth. But, yeah, it's like, with the scenarios y'all have brought me, like, honestly, this could all be the same optimistic character. The first excuse when he showed up at the bar was, she said her grandmother died. Second excuse, shows up at the bar, oh, she put the lasagna in the oven because her family's coming over, because I'm on the same level as her family as far as importance goes. I made her forget about her family, of all things. And then she planned a trip to tell her grandmother that she's meeting the love of her life. This is all the same tirelessly optimistic person, but it does suck initially for the character. It's like the moment of going to the bar to drink away the problems, that's the moment that sucks, but then we get to peak that optimism that is powerful, potentially funny, but at the very least, it makes it so that we aren't dragged down by this character's like depression here. And that's how we do the paths if we want to make this character more of a funny, quirky character versus the sympathetic. I mean, this character's maybe sympathetic too. We might find out why, additionally, why this character is being rejected all the time. It could be tied into the optimism, it could be tied into something else. But right now, we have a lot to work with, because once we have this optimism, we've set up a framework so that from the start, from this bartender interaction, we're able to set up this character's deal is too optimistic. And once we have that, we have a very powerful tool that we can keep using from moment to moment, from scene to scene. Because regardless of what situation comes up, let's say the character is given a super risky job by a quest giver. And in that case, I mean, at first glance, we know this character is probably gonna take it, right? They probably feel like they're good enough, they're strong enough, and everything will turn out great. Now, though we can predict this path, the beauty is in the how, right? How you deal with this. Because this character being so optimistic, I imagine this character being in a party and being with this group of friends who are all about to go tackle some treacherous task, and suddenly they're given this job of dealing with like an ancient dragon. Well, depending on the path everyone decides, we at the very least know that this character wants to go full steam ahead. This character feels like it's gonna turn out well. Now, whether we go ahead to the ancient dragon or not, we have the expectation. And then it's just a matter of why. Why is this character so optimistic about this ancient dragon task? Maybe he feels like he's chosen. Maybe he's never seen an ancient dragon before and would love to be able to talk to one and maybe get, a piece of that hoard. So there are a lot of possibilities, but it's like you start off from the narrow and keep building, keep building. It doesn't matter which trait you have as long as you choose one, and then you have that, like each moment. It's just like drawing another line, drawing another line, drawing another line, drawing another line, until you have a box. And I mean, as I said before, having this box, initially when you think about being in a box, it's limiting. But having the box gives you power because it allows you to use that frame as your improv fodder. So that every scene, you know the realm in which you're in. And then it's just a matter of how. And trying to figure out how in a little box is so much easier than trying to figure out how when you have no box at all. So, I've gone over a little bit. I appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Joe, Liam, Jordan. Y'all are incredible, and oh man, I'm excited for next time. But thank y'all for tuning in, and well, until next time, take care and have a great night, y'all.